All right, I just spent like 20 minutes trying to get this running. A lot of people didn't understand how important their voices were, how important their words were. They kept on wanting to say things like, I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. Well, they did. They did know something. The reason I needed them to speak up is the same reason that I knew I needed somebody to speak up before Natalie was killed. The police sold a bullshit narrative, and I was never allowed to defend myself against it. While many of the officers and other places that I tried to turn in for the crimes that they committed against me, although they were later closed down for doing those exact same things to other human beings, even resulting in death in some of those cases, people still wouldn't help me by speaking up where it mattered. Making police reports is extremely important. When you're called mentally ill, you're not allowed. Even if they do allow you to turn in a police report, they'll just play stupid. A lot of the people who offered to help me, and there were probably about 100 or so that I knew in real life that offered to help, but they couldn't help me how I needed. How did I need them to help? I needed them to speak up. The narrative being sold by the Bollingers was bullshit. I was trying to get help. I had gone to the cops. I had gone to my friends. I had gone to the source of the bullying. I had asked the bullies themselves to knock it the fuck off. Now, I'm going to give you examples of a lot of people who, well, with the narrative that the cops told, the cops said nobody would help me, probably because of the way that I act, which was complete bullshit. You guys should have known me before Natalie was killed. Before the whole situation with Natalie, matter of fact, because, like, for a whole year before Natalie was killed, I was trying to get help. After Natalie's killed, everybody wants to pretend like everything just went away, like all those problems went away. Nobody's going to mess with me ever again. No, those people are still going to mess with me. Now, I'm going to bring up Ukraine because, well, when Amy Witcher was going to leave Andrew and that lady turned it in and jumped the gun. See, that's the thing about victims. Sometimes they're dependent upon their predators. And when you jump the gun, they're not able to turn in their predators because they're still dependent upon them. They have to find a way to be independent of their predators. Let's take, for example, a single mom who can't afford to have her kids and pay the bills and go to fucking work every day. She can't afford all of it and childcare. There is no way in hell. She needs someone else to help cover the bills. Now, obviously, that's not true in every single case, but in many cases, it is the scenario. So, in order for you to break them free of the abuse that they're enduring, you have to help them to get to a safe place. Otherwise, they might be off to even worse situation. I mean, being abused when you can still go sleep in your own bed by, versus being abused and you're out on the streets and anybody can abuse you at any point in time and get away with it and you know it. A lot of people choose to go back. There's a lot of kids on the streets. Oh my God, there are just so many of them. Some of them are homeless because mom or dad are super ultra Christian and found out their kid's gay. Some of them kids get beaten up a lot by their parents or by their siblings. Some of them get raped over and over again. Now, with all these people who couldn't come forward because they had funerals, or because somebody was sick, or because they had to go to the hospital for an emergency, well, what about all the rest of the time when you weren't at the hospital, when you weren't having that emergency? What about all the rest of the time that you didn't speak up? What about all the time that you wasted texting me for hours on end, wanting the full scoop but not helping me to turn it in? When you're called mentally ill, you do need help turning it in. You cannot rely on a government agency alone to do their job. You have to have a friend or family member who is invested in the situation, who does actually care about you and is willing to help you how somebody who is family would help. Many of these people, they have never gone without help. They've been in desperate situations, but they have always had someone there that they could get help from. Always had family, always had that support network. Now, just like Amy throwing that tantrum because she didn't have a safe place to go, if somebody came and got Andrew, she wouldn't be able to pay for child care. They'd take her kids away. That's what she was afraid of. Without a safe place, they'll take her kids away. And this wouldn't have been the first time because they've taken her kids away before. Them folks in Ukraine saying, we don't have a safe place to go. And a lot of Americans want to make that joke. Oh, well, you need a safe place. You're a snowflake and so on and so forth. And I hear people's complaints in the Human Rights Commission, and then I see what the United States government is doing to its own citizens. It's a war against the poor, and it only profits the rich. It's your tax dollars that are going to pay to have innocent people locked up, framed for crimes that they didn't commit, repeatedly harmed. When police wrote things like what they did, those people coming forward would have made all the difference in the world. But then again, my public pretenders got to be willing to do their jobs. And they all use the same excuse, that they're overwhelmed. They have an overwhelming caseload, every single one of them. So they can't do their jobs, but they're getting paid for it anyway. And then the jails and the jailers are getting paid even more money out of your tax dollars that you had to bust your ass for, because now you've got an innocent person locked up. But it's fine. You can just keep them locked up until they are willing to plead guilty to a crime that they didn't commit, just so they don't lose everything. The cops lied a lot, and I wasn't allowed to show the evidence that it was an outright fucking lie. I wasn't allowed to show it. And now a lot of people are dead. Demetrius Shankling was murdered in Adams County. That's where Natalie Bollinger was shot in the head. They injected him with drugs that don't belong in any human being, and it killed him. The same drugs that I was speaking out about. Officer Waylon Lolatai assaulted a lot of people after he assaulted me. And they got those people's body cam evidence and were able to post it up all over the place, on the news, on social media, all over the place. But somehow, magically, nobody could get the body camera evidence of what happened to me. Police were allowed at every step of the way to prevent that body cam evidence from coming forward by calling me mentally ill. They were able to get away with things that are not only against the law, but because I am disabled, they are even more against the law. But they were able to deny me my rights as a human being by pretending that I'm schizophrenic. That's just fucking crazy. Two of the other officers who took part in the abuse against me killed Demetrius Shankling. So between Elijah McClain getting killed by one of those injections, the same injection that killed Tybra Hatay at Clearview, which, by the way, I was at Clearview as well. I've already proven with actual evidence on my fucking channel that I was at these fucking places, that these things did happen. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not allowed to show the truth in court. They have done everything that they can to prevent all of this evidence from being shown in court, including the motives for these officers committing the felonies that they committed, and the motives for the Bollingers committing the felonies that they committed, and the fact that all of this abuse is over fucking slander that was allowed in court, while my evidence was not. While nothing was done about the safety issues involving the police and their repeated threats, harassment, and assaults against me. Not to mention the fact that they helped my other predators get away with the crimes that they committed against me. Crimes that I have shown over and over, and many people have verified. Yes, these are crimes that were committed against me. But people aren't speaking up, and never did speak up the way they did for Elijah McClain, or for Zaid Atkinson, or for Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. And what the police wrote down as their narrative versus what all of these people who promised to help me, promised to come forward, told me, they're not the same. The narrative that the cops sold is bullshit. And the evidence with Dee Dee Klang proves it. The evidence with David and Betsy Prowl proves it. The evidence with Natalie and Alicia and Maddie proves it. The evidence with the Bollinger family, including Jennifer Farina Bollinger and her friends, and Natalie and Alicia's extended friends, like Dalton Crawford and Mr. Braxton, and many other people who got involved in this. Many people took part in this. And I was repeatedly denied the right to show what they were doing. Nobody ever bothered to actually investigate the fucking evidence. And now there's a lot of people who are dead. You goddamn right I speak up. There's some folks here that are from Washington, and they stopped me and gave me $90. Why? Pleasant conversation. I'm a different person in real life than I am on my YouTube channel. It's because I have to hide all of this shit in public that I'm going through. I have to hide my anxiety about the fact that I can't do most of what I need to do because a lot of my evidence is on a full-size computer back there. It's a desktop computer, not a laptop. I can't just wheel it into Starbucks and set it up and take up 3 fucking tables worth of shit just to set up my computer. I mean, their tables are pretty small. And then there's the stuff I got to photocopy. There's a lot of stuff that I need to have photocopies of. That way I have copies of it. There's a lot of people who have tried to help me, and with many of them, the thing that's needed the most is their statement, but they didn't write their statements at the time that these things happened. And over time, they forget about it. That's why it's against the law for them to ignore this for this long. I mean, legally, they are allowed to ignore it for a small portion of time. But when it is ongoing and you have tried to report it repeatedly, and officers have taken part, threatening, harassing, and intimidating you, forcing you to go back to those same officers who have threatened, harassed, and intimidated you and covered for their fellow officers is not appropriate. In all of these instances, cops used pretty white girls as their excuses. They hid behind pretty white girls who I was trying to turn in. Why is that? Because you have no idea how many white girls thought it was okay to fucking stalk me because they saw some crazy shit on the news. Because they saw lies on the news. Because people intentionally misled the situation. Now, with my last court date, that judge knows very well that context is important. And by allowing that out of context and ignoring the safety issues with the Dual County Sheriff's Department and with Leslie Snell, that he was committing felonies. And yes, that is recorded. It is on my YouTube channel. I had to make that court date through the fucking telephone. But I did record it. It is on my YouTube channel. And I'm sure that judge has absolutely no problems with trying to have me locked up for showing the truth. I want you guys to remember that I spent 7 months locked up. Literally was locked up in prison because I was trying to turn in and spoke out on my YouTube channel. I spoke my intentions to take William Barr and Leslie Snell and Robert Warnick and Sheriff Scott DaCosta of Dual County to court. Big surprise, I spent 7 months locked up because those people, the best they could come up with were misdemeanors. They all charged me with crimes that were not committed. And they worked together to get away with those crimes. But just like with the body camera evidence, I don't have any actual help in person. With Rebecca, she's one of the young women that I'm up here to help find. And I was able to help find her. She is, I wouldn't call it safe, but she's homeless in Portland. And she just disappeared for almost 2 months. Now I'm here to help her. How she needs. Use this $90 to cover the expenses of going back and forth between here in Portland to help her out. Go to the appointments that she needs to go to. Hopefully, in the process of doing all this, I'll learn how to get everything set up for myself here in Oregon. I do have decent looking clothes that I can wear, so I can go in with her when she needs somebody to go in with her. I can go in and look somewhat professional. Looks are important, and I do admit that. It's sad and it's pathetic, but it's the fucking truth. Now, as long as we record something to show, and that's the thing with Rebecca. She wanted to go in and talk to the cops today, and she's going to go do it by herself. I would like to go in with her. She says she's going to record it, and she's got the same fears I do. When you try to turn stuff like what she's gone through in, the cops are more likely to lock you up. And then it doesn't matter that you recorded it. You can't show your recording until after you get released, and that's if they didn't wipe it. It's not an easy life, folks. It's expensive. And you never get to have an address that you can keep to receive your own mail at. You're constantly on the move. Everywhere that you go, the cops harass you to move somewhere else, move somewhere else, move somewhere else. You know what I'm surprised about? The cops have not fucked with me since I got to Oregon.